It's cold in the colony. We are starving. We are in real need of some medical supplies. I have a splinter in my finger the size of a small car. So we've sent Colin out to get some antibiotics in the wastelands out there. This is We're Not Wizards. It's another Friends of the Show edition, and this one is going to be called Starting a Vault War in the Dead of Winter on the Wasteland Express. I'm your host, I'm Richard, and joining me tonight is Jon Gilmour of Dead of Winter, of Vault Wars, of the soon-to-be released Wasteland Express. So how are you doing, Jon?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really, really well. Yeah, I've had a really, really good day, and this is just going to be a bit of fun. So
I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm glad you're here, and there'll be a lot of people that will be really happy to hear that we've got you on the show. Seeing there's the number of times we've been mentioning the word Dead of Winter, so you'll be glad that you won't have to worry about hearing that again. Well, we'll still obviously mention it because we have to. For those that aren't aware, the reason that we do this is because there are simply not enough podcasts about board games. And because we've sent Colin outside into the wilderness, there are not enough board games podcasts that are done just with two guys. So, Jon, we're going to keep the format as the show is normal. So, one of the first things that we talk about is obviously what we've got to the table. Okay. But you're probably doing what a lot of people listening to the podcast would like to do, which is you're involved in game design. I mean, you design games that have done really, really well that are out there. So, but I mean, going back, was there a game that stood out in your what kind of games did you play when you were younger? Was it the same as everybody else, Monopoly, stuff like that, or?
I grew up in a very rural area in northern New York, so I really didn't have a lot of people around me. It was just pretty much my sister and I.
Right.
So we tended to play more video games than board games when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
Then in high school, I was in Boy Scouts and at a big brotherhood type celebration thing where because I grew up right on the Canadian border of New York. So they would do these brotherhoods where all the Canadian Scouts and the American Scouts would get together and camp for the weekend.
Oh, that was cool.
So I got introduced to Magic the Gathering at one of those, and someone sold me a starter deck and a couple booster packs and some extra cards. And...
Were they like a dealer? Did they say you can get your first card for free?
Yeah, yeah, they knew how to do it. I mean, they gave me the starter deck and some just crappy random cards for cheap, and then the rule book, and sent me on my way. And within a year, I was an addict.
So were you? Did you end up having to sell stuff and steal stuff to kind of fund your magic habit?
So it was kind of a blessing that I was in a very rural area.
Yeah.
Because I was a kid with a strong entrepreneurial sense. So what I did is I got all of my friends into Magic and got a lot of other kids in school in Magic, and we didn't have a game store within an hour of where we lived. And this was before the heyday of the internet.
Yeah.
And in the back of Inquest, which is a Magic the Gathering.
It's an expansion, is it? Or...
No, it was a magazine back in the day.
Oh, right, okay.
Focused on Magic the Gathering. In the back pages of that, I found a distributor that, after a few phone calls, I pretended to be a business, and I was buying booster boxes of Magic the Gathering, cash on delivery. So
were you getting them at cost as well? Were you getting them a lot cheaper? Whoa.
Yeah, I was getting them for $1.50 a pack. So I would buy a booster box of them, and they worked on COD, which is a thing that doesn't really exist anymore.
No, you don't get that anymore at all.
Yeah, so I called up and they delivered a box of Magic the Gathering, and I handed over my $60 for 60 booster packs, or 45, however many. And then they cost me about $1.50 a piece, and I would sell them for $3. and I would pretty much just sell half each box and then keep the other half for myself.
So you had a little empire going.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had a lunch box, and I would pat the lunch box with booster pats, and then everybody in my school would come up and buy them during the day.
Did you have a little stall at lunchtime? Did people come up and say, "Hey man, you got any of this? You got this? You
Oh
got
yeah,
this
yeah.
pack?"
People would come
Yeah.
up to me in the hallway or at lunch, and obviously what I was doing was not really illegal, but
No,
I
I
was
mean
I was fulfilling a need that wasn't in our community, and
it was you were being an entrepreneur. That's what they would call that.
exactly.
You were getting stuff done. You were providing like you were fulfilling a need in your school. So that was yeah. So so once you built up your empire and you had laid waste to all your competition. I mean, was there kind of competition? Did competition appear? Did you end up in turf wars?
No, because nobody else really could figure out like how to get a hold of them at that cost. Like it was funny because I just I honestly did most of my business on a payphone at school. Like
This is
I
brilliant.
I would throw like $1 in
Yeah,
on one of my study halls and make
yeah.
calls to the distributors and get the stuff sent. Um, and,
And
and, I,
they
and, and nobody else just thought about it, I guess.
and they sent that to. Did they send that to your home then? So did you get to the point where you were getting a couple of boxes delivered a week, or was it just once a month? Or
I was probably doing like 2 or 3 booster boxes a month.
whoa,
Um, so I mean, I was building a really good collection, and I think at the time the booster packs were actually selling at 350. So like I felt selling them for $3. I was doing people a
you were
favor.
still giving people. You were giving people a healthy discount, and they were still saving themselves some money. So I mean, you can't feel bad about that. So, I mean, did that? Obviously, that was a business. I mean, that wasn't just you playing Magic. So, did you? I take it you played a lot of Magic at the same time. I mean, did that help you move into other games? Is that where you kind of moved on from Magic after a while, or did you play it for quite some time?
Yeah, I played it from about the Dark expansion until the end of the Urza Saga uh, arc, which I think was probably about 5 or 6 years, maybe.
Whoa.
So I played it for a good long time, and then when I moved to Ohio, and well, first of all, when I went to college, like I oddly couldn't find many people that played at my college,
No.
um, which was weird. I mean, but then again, this was like 1998, so
Yeah. So things
gaming
kind of
wasn't
died.
quite as prevalent.
Yeah, things kind of died off a little bit by then. You
Yeah,
know.
and then I moved to Ohio, and I still couldn't find anybody. But I went to a booster draft tournament.
Uh huh.
Uh, it was probably about an hour away from where I lived, and I had one of the worst gaming experiences of my life.
Why
I
was
think
that?
it was the very first set that Wizards of the Coast had introduced foils in,
Right. Okay.
and it was a booster draft. So I paid for the tournament, and I opened up my first booster pack, and the distribution in Magic cards is pretty well set.
Yeah.
It's you
Yeah.
get X amount of commons and then 2 uncommons and a
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and in a booster draft tournament, what rares you get is pretty important because that's a lot of what you structure your deck around.
So
So, oh, sorry,
it,
go ahead.
you got it was bad. I'm
Well,
guessing this was
so
bad.
so I open up my first booster pack, and the rare spot is a foil basic land.
Right.
So, I mean, a completely garbage card, but it's in the rare spot because it's foiled. And then I open up
Oh,
my
right.
second
Okay.
pack, and it's another foil basic land.
So did you pack up and go home if you get that?
Well, I mean, I built, it was a little bit of a problem because I'd been out of the game for about 4 years, so I wasn't totally aware of the current meta of the
Yeah,
game.
because
But
that becomes really important
it's
all the
super important in
time.
a tournament.
Yeah.
But I built the best deck I could, and then I got eliminated in the first round by like a 10-year-old. And I was like, oh, that I'm done. I sold all my Magic cards.
Is
Uh,
that it? Did you quit? Did that cause you to quit?
it did. Which,
Whoa.
looking back, I regret it. Like, I wish I kept my cards just so I could do really, you know, because I had tons of all the old stuff, so I could do some really awesome cubes for like cube drafts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But then, I
Um,
mean, if you hadn't quit, then you wouldn't have had this fantastic story that you've just told, which is
yeah,
got beat by a 10-year-old, and that was it.
it's totally worth it. So cut to probably another 10 years later, and
Yeah.
my wife and I had been married,
Uh huh.
and we realized that we were starting to spend a lot of time just watching TV and movies, and we would occasionally go over with her parent to her parents' house and play the more traditional board games like Scattergories and Scrabble and stuff like that. Um, and I knew that there were other games in there because like InQuest used to have advertisements for Settlers of Catan,
Yeah.
and I was like, I know that there's better games out there, and maybe I can convince her parents to play it because, Phase 10 is just an awful game if you've
Yeah.
ever played it. And, Skippo and Uno, like those games, they used to fill a niche, but, they're not as good as they used to be.
There's a reason that kind of Scrabble stays in the cupboard for as
Mm-hmm.
long as it does, and a lot of like Monopoly is the biggest kind of. Everybody seems to have a shot at Monopoly, but everybody also says Monopoly is such an awful, rage-inducing game that it should be, it should be just retired. But I think that, well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, if I mention board games to people that don't play board games, the first thing that they say is, "Well, you play in kind of Monopoly or Ludo or Frustration," or
Mm-hmm.
the more inventive ones say Clue or Cluedo kind of
Or
thing.
or Risk occasionally.
Yeah, yeah. You play that Risk game? I love the little figures on it. It's like, no, there are so many other games out
So
there.
much better.
So what? And then, so you were saying that you're obviously looking for a game to play with parents. So
Yes.
what did you end up playing?
So I ended up picking up Carcassonne,
Mm-hmm.
um, and Bonanza,
Okay.
which I mean are both fantastic games, and they're still ones that I love to play.
Yeah.
Um, but they were really good introductions. So with those, I was able to kind of get her family and my wife to see that there was more to gaming than just that, and we both kind of got addicted to playing Carcassonne, just two player until we had the game. And if
Yeah.
you play a lot of Carcassonne two player, I'm sure most people have had the game where you're just like, nope, we're not going to play this anymore
Yeah.
because we
You're,
get very, very angry when we do.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can just imagine. Does your wife still play a lot of kind of board games now? I mean, is her interest in the hobby, is it grown? Is your interest is obviously just gone off the chart?
It
Is
has.
she?
It's really good because we had been doing this, just playing games a little bit for probably 6 months or so, and she threw a surprise birthday for me and invited a bunch of people over from like 11 a.m. until we got done gaming, around midnight or whenever.
Whoa.
And we had a good time, and afterwards we're talking. We're like, we should do this more often.
Okay.
Um, so we talked about it, and we're like, well, what if we you know do this every month? What if we try to get people to come together every month and play this game? So we started up a Facebook group and started to invite friends and hold these monthly game days.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that every month except for one. Let me see. I think our next one coming up will be number 78.
Really.
So every month. So it's like
That's
almost 6 years.
that's amazing. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
I mean the social. I mean one of the things that I've always seen video games suffer from is it seems to be moving away from the lack of social interaction, whereas board games seem. I mean, okay, you can go to a video game conference, but everybody seems to be playing single-handedly in a booth, staring at a screen by themselves. I mean, but you go to like any type of game, a board game related card game, even the skirmish games, you got people sitting around, even though they're playing against each other. There's the social aspect as well, which I think has really, really helped kind of give maybe board games a bit more of a positive kind of slant than video games.
Yeah, absolutely. And we felt like that social interaction was really important for us, and something that we wanted to try to promote within our community. So like that, what we do for our game days is like we usually cook like a big main dish, like a couple of crock pots of whatever, and then we just ask that anybody that comes brings like some kind of side dish or drinks or something to share, and then we have between 20 and 50 people show up every month.
That's really amazing.
And spend all day playing games, and everybody's sharing food, and it's great.
So where did you, I guess the next thing is, so where'd you go from hosting board games to actually sitting down and saying, you know what, I could maybe put something together myself because I've got some ideas that might work, and I'm not getting that from the games that I'm playing. So when did that happen?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just really intrigued as to, you were obviously very, very involved in the hobby by that. So what was the switch to make you say, let's get creative?
I think my story isn't really that unique, unfortunately, and I wish it was a little bit more. But
I don't know, the losing to a 10-year-old at Magic the Gathering and saying, do you know what, forget it. That's a pretty good story.
Well, on the design side, I started kind of just tinkering, making little fan expansions for some games.
Yeah.
And then you do that for a little while, and then you're like, oh well, I think I could try to make a whole game. I have an idea that I think is unique, and you make that first game, and it's a hard thing to admit, but usually that first game is awful. And mine was complete garbage. I'll never go back to it because
what was it called?
I don't think I ever came up with a title for it, and I really like the concept. And every time I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back and revisit that concept. I'm like, no, it was bad, and I don't think I can make it good. It was.
You don't want to be that. This is a really good game, and people are going, it's Jon Gilmour's next game. People line him up, and they walk away and go. No.
Yeah, I'm very much about ideas are not worth anything. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to tell anybody my game idea because they'll steal it, and that's really the worst perspective you could have on creating games, because if you share your ideas, the only thing it's going to do is create discussion. Like, I'll gladly talk about my first design because if somebody wanted to steal it, they're welcome to. It was a racing game where all the players played board gods that were creating this new sport, and their sport was racing humans against each other, but they weren't allowed to directly interfere with any of the humans. So it's a racing game where all of the humans on the track move one spot forward every turn.
Okay.
So everything's going the exact same speed. But what the play of the game was is you would play like obstacles in front of the other players, or you could set a bomb off behind your guy to like rocket them forward, or you could put like an ice patch in front of somebody else, or portals, or So it was kind of this like wacky race game where it was more. The people would move the same every turn, but you were trying to affect how they moved to either slow down the other people or speed you up.
To be honest, me not being much of a board game designer, that sounds like a pretty good idea. And I'm sure there'll be people listening to this and going, what, John thinks that's rubbish? That sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make that.
And if somebody does, please just let me know, because I'd love to see another approach at it. I don't know the solution to make it work.
We should have a competition to see who can design the best board game, and then the person gets 10 foil packs of Magic if they win.
10 foil basic lands.
There you go. Yeah, stick that in your pipe and smoke it, kind of thing.
So that was kind of my first design, and it took me 3 or 4 tries of revising it to realize like this just isn't good. And then I moved on because the other part that kind of influenced me to get into game design was I was working in a factory.
Right. Okay.
And in high school, I had done a lot of art and other creative things. And when I worked in the computer industry before I moved, when I got married, we moved into the area where my wife's family lives. So there's no computer industry in this area that we live right now, or there wasn't at the time. So, I ended up having to get factory work just, to make do until something better happened. So, I really felt creatively stifled in that I wasn't making anything. Like, even though I was creating a product for 8 hours a day, it wasn't something that I was passionate about.
Well, listen, I know exactly how you feel. I mean, for people who don't know, and there's not a lot of people that maybe do. One of the other things I do when I'm not doing the wizarding thing or the We're Not Wizards, is I draw people, and it mirrors exactly maybe what you're saying, is that my job is, I'm in sales. I sell for a living, and I'm not bad at it, but there isn't as much creativity. So, one of the things that I started to do was to draw people, and that's kind of how we got talking, because I ended up drawing, was it you and Jerry Hawthorne and Isaac Vega and Colby as well, and I drew you in as zombies for like a Dead of Winter kind of montage. And that's how we got talking, wasn't it? Basically,
absolutely.
It was kind of from there. So yeah, I completely understand if you're in a job where you want to be, if your creativeness is maybe stifled in a direction you want it to be, then yeah, I completely kind of understand that. So the job that you were doing meant you kind of got a bit more creative out of work. So what were the fruits of that kind of labor then?
So I wanted to keep making these games, and if you for new designers, if you can make it through realizing that first initial game is probably utter crap, and keep making things, like that's really, in my opinion, the key to its success. Like, just pushing through all the failures, because even at this point in my career, I have like 12 or 13 games with publishers right now, not counting Vault Wars and the games that have already come out, or that, but there's way more failures than there are successes. And, games that I either won't ever get published, or that I just shelved because I can't figure out what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
So pushing through those failures for anybody that's creative is really important. So, I worked on my Nets thing, and I think my Nets thing wasn't very good. It was a take on a classic card game like Rummy.
All right. Okay.
Except it was team based, and you didn't know who was on your team. So I was super infatuated with werewolf and social deduction games at the time.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
So I wanted to make like a group social deduction traditional card game. And like the main mechanic was kind of in Rummy, where you would offer cards to other players, and all the cards were multiple use.
Yeah.
But you would try to decide by like how you were handing cards to other players and who they were handing them to. You would try to suss out who was on your team, and then obviously it had a zombie theme, so it was zombies versus humans, and the cards had like some number of brains on them, and the zombie team just wanted like every brain that they collected was worth a point, and then the human team was trying to build sets. So like
Right. Okay.
each player scored his individual hand and
Uh-huh.
scored the thing that he had the most of.
All right. Okay.
So like it was really cool, and it's one I probably will revisit at some point because it
Yeah.
was asymmetric, team based. But so that one I shelved, and then I made Pocket Dungeon, which
Now that
is
was 2009. That was the one that you say you released on the world.
it
And
was the it was yeah, go ahead.
and office productivity has never been the same.
Um, yeah, it was the first one that I felt was good enough to share,
Huh.
and I felt okay, uh, with saying here's the thing I made. Tell me what you think of it. So I put it on BGG, and the response was way more than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah.
It was nominated for a Golden Geek Award the
Whoa.
year that it was put. It didn't win, but it was still nominated, which is
Well, I
pretty
mean
awesome.
that's something that you can crow about if you get something like that because
And
that
I think it was the most downloaded print and play game that year, maybe. And it was definitely like one of the most thumbed files that came out that year.
that's
Um,
pretty cool.
yeah, it was super cool, and just seeing that response was, really like, oh well, okay, well the thing I made wasn't horrible, and now other people have verified that they think it's okay, so maybe I'll try something else. So
Hmm.
Dad, I had a couple more failed designs in between that, and then I started on what became Dead of Winter, and I was honestly probably going to release that game as a print and play as well.
Really?
Um,
Well,
which
that could have made things an awful lot more different.
yeah, it would have been completely different.
Yeah.
So I'd been working on it for about a year, and our game days were getting bigger and bigger. And one of my friends that I had met locally was like, "Oh, well, I know these guys that we used to play Raw Deal with, which is a WWE based
Oh yeah.
collectible card game."
Yeah. Okay.
So he's like, "Well, I know these guys that live about an hour and a half away that we used to play Raw Deal with. Do you mind if I invite them to your game day? Because I think they'd really like it." So I was like, "Absolutely." So these guys from this place about an hour and a half away started coming, and I became friends with all them. And then they were like, "Well, do you mind if we bring our friends?" So they brought their friend Isaac Vega.
Isaac Vega.
So Isaac was coming to our game day. So I think the third or fourth game day that he came to, I felt comfortable saying like, "Hey, I don't I don't want to like." I felt weird because we were friends, and I was like, "I'm not. I just want your opinions on this game. I'm not showing it to you because I want anything else out of it. Like I'm
Yeah.
not showing it to you to pitch it. Like I just want you to tell me whether or not you think this game's
Is
viable."
good or not? Yeah.
So we played it, and we got done playing it, and he was like, "That's really good." And he asked me if he could co-design it, and with the intention of eventually pitching it to Plaid Hat because he wasn't full time with them yet.
No. Was he
In fact,
just? He was because he's done obviously Ashes himself now, which
mhm.
is amazing. But he was just part time kind of there as well because Plaid Hat have grown and they've been bought out by someone else if I'm correct. Yeah.
F to Z, the same company that bought out Z Man and what's the guys that did Flick 'em Up.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I know who
Um,
you're talking about, but I can't remember the.
yeah, I can't remember that company's name, which is awful of
Well,
me.
we're sorry if you made Flick 'em Up. Then we apologise to you wholeheartedly for not remembering what you're called. Um,
They acquired both those companies. And when I originally met Colby, he was the only employee of Plaid Hat. It was a
really?
completely one man show, and he was getting ready to hire Isaac.
Does he
So
wear his hat all the time?
no, not all the time.
Not all, but he does wear it
Occasionally.
occasionally. Right? Okay.
So Isaac and I worked on it, went back and forth on it for about 2 more years before we pitched it to Plaid Hat, and then Plaid Hat liked it, so we just worked on developing it more. And I
Yeah.
was still full time at the factory. Um, so Isaac kind of took over the development end of things because he was full time in the industry.
Yeah.
Um, and then it got released, and at that point, once it came out and was starting to be successful, I spent a lot of time thinking about what I want to do, because it's a little bit scary, because when I was in high school, I really loved working with computers.
Yeah.
And then when I got a job in the computer industry, like, I didn't want to work on my own computer anymore.
No,
and,
exactly.
and it's a real common thing that, like, when something becomes your job, that you kind of fall out of love with it, and it's because it's something you have to do.
Because you're doing it every day, and sometimes you need to be able to have a distance with it to realize where your passion lies. I mean, when you got an actual finished copy of Dead of Winter, what was that like? Was that what kind of, do you still remember that day? Do you remember when you got here's your copy
Oh,
of
absolutely.
Dead of Winter fully finished? I mean, did you get two? Have you still got one shrink wrapped? Did you sign it?
I don't have any shrink wrapped. I'm really bad. I give away most of my most of my designer copies, because I either give them away to friends and family, or I'll donate them to causes that are raising money. So I still have my very first copy, Dead of Winter. It's the one that I've played probably 125 games of it on, and I used it for all the expansion work that I did.
Yeah. And we'll get on to that, and obviously, as you're probably aware, I called the Long Dark the Dark Knight.
Yes.
But yeah, okay, I'm really glad you heard that episode. You totally apologise, like, oh, that's good, as long as he hasn't listened to all of them.
Nope,
like,
listen to all of them.
Listen to all of them. No, I called it the Dark Knight. Yep. No, I had to apologise. Yep.
There's very little Batman in that game.
There could be.
There could be. I'm not going to ruin any surprises for anybody.
I'm anxious to get my hands on a copy of it, because just because it's an expansion. It's an expansion to a favorite game of mine, but that's kind of beside the point. So, Dead of Winter's out there. Mm-hmm. You've obviously kind of moved on. One of the things we can touch on kind of later on is kind of what you're working on at the moment, and what you've recently kind of been working on as well, because Vault Wars is another game that we've had quite a bit of fun with at the club. It's a good old auction game, which we'll touch on. With you being involved in the industry, and with you having to sit down every day with your white pieces of paper, because I've read this stuff on Wasteland Express, are there games that you're playing at the moment that still kind of get you excited? Is there stuff that you've got to the table? I mean, like what we say is we've got the get to the table kind of section of the show, but is there stuff that you've recently kind of got to the table that you've went, this is pretty good, I like this? I mean, is there games that you must play a lot of games to help you with your ideas, but are there any ones that you've played recently that you've kind of liked, that you've really enjoyed?
Absolutely. One of my biggest problems, and my friends made fun of me, because every time I tell one of my friends that a board game's good, they're like, we can't trust your opinion. Like, I love almost every board game that I play.
Everyone?
About the only time that they listen to my opinion is when I tell them I didn't love that game. They're like, oh, well, it's probably awful. If John didn't fall in love with it, then we probably don't even want to play it.
I mean, do you get people sending you games? Do you get like mysterious packages in the post with people saying, here you go, what do you think of this? Do you get that? People sending you stuff? Or?
Every now and then. I mean, it's important to me. So if a new designer or someone who's working on becoming into the industry, if they're like, hey, will you take a look at my game?
Yeah.
I'm almost always more than happy to make time to do that. So, if a designer out there wants to, share a game with me, I'll usually tell them, yeah, send me. I can't always take the time to print out and put together somebody else's prototype
No.
because that's, an extra 2 or 3 hour commitment that I can't make. But if somebody wants to send me a copy of their prototype, I'm
Yeah.
almost more than happy to get it to the table and, give them some feedback and some help, because people did that for me coming
Yeah.
up.
And you're just kind of playing it forward at the
Yeah.
end of the day, yeah.
And when every now and then I feel I don't like to get free games because I feel like I'm abusing my power. I even feel bad when I go to a convention and
I
use
think
my industry badge to get in before the doors open to buy like a super hot game that I'm excited about before anybody else can.
is it not just the case though? It's shelf space as well. I mean,
I have a problem. I have a very bad problem. I have a ridiculous number of board games.
yeah.
Like an embarrassing number, like probably in the 2,000 range.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
So-
that's you're obviously that's you helping to document an entire hobby. I mean, you could catalog that stuff. You could have a shop.
I still try to convince myself that I do it because of that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that is definitely the excuse I use on my taxes.
Somebody has got to be going out and getting all these games, because if some disaster happens and we're all wondering what happened to the board games, we can go, let's head down to John's place. John's got all the board games.
Well,
Some kind of strange apocalypse type movie.
yes.
Hey, I tell you what, if Dead of Winter becomes true, we can head round to your house, because, we may be cold and hungry and tired, but we'll not be bored.
We didn't build a hell of a barricade out of all of them. But
So is there anything at the moment that you're really kind of enjoying playing? I mean, we mentioned off the off the cast code names very quickly.
Yeah.
Is there anything
I
else?
love Codenames. We've been playing a lot of Deception, Murder in Hong Kong.
Oh, right, okay.
If you can get your hands on that, that is like Werewolf mixed with Mysterium and Dipsit.
Yeah, you know that I'm not supposedly I don't like Mysterium. Apparently, according to Colin, I don't like it, but yeah.
I honestly think that Deception is better than both of those games.
Oh, well, there you go.
It does social deduction really well. It does because what's neat is that everybody has cards in front of them.
Yeah.
And the person that's giving clues, after, like, if I was the forensic investigator and I gave my clues, I have to give my clues silently.
Mm-hmm.
But then all the other players have to take turns discussing what they think the clues mean.
Oh, right, okay.
So there's a lot of context within that discussion.
That's pretty cool.
I just got my copy of Scythe the other day.
Don't, because I missed out on that one, and I'm gutted
no.
because I had to get some work done on my car, or there was some kind of financial emergency, and I had to go. I had it, and then I went, nah, I have to cancel this. I have to. There is a list, I think, of Kickstarter games that I have cancelled because of financial constraints, and Scythe is one of them. So you're now going to tell me that Scythe looks horrible, has shoddy mechanics, and is potentially the worst game you've ever played, just to make me feel better.
If it makes you feel better, yes, all of that is 100% the truth.
Thank goodness for that. It's not though, is it? It's brilliant, isn't it?
I've only gotten to play it once with 3 players, so.
All right, okay.
But so far, I really dig what it's doing.
Okay, I'll pretend I didn't hear that.
But I understand completely. Like, I backed out of Zombicide Black Plague. Like,
Did you?
I'm not a huge Zombicide fan. Like, that was one of the games. One of the reasons I started on Dead of Winter, because I felt like the other zombie games that existed weren't doing the things I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I feel like Zombicide does Left 4 Dead zombies pretty well.
All right, okay, yeah.
so I was really excited about Black Plague. So now I'm desperately hunting around to try to find a Kickstarter copy of that.
They're going for a lot of money at the moment. They're going for about, I've seen them for a couple of £100.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
missed like there was uh somebody listed one and they were selling it for what they paid, and I
Oh,
missed out on it.
no.
I mean, it went
Well,
instantly. Like within a minute, somebody had offered to buy
let's start up the Jon Gilmour appeal
it.
for zombie side. Black is
No,
Black Flag.
no,
If you are looking to sell your copy to John, get in touch.
I would be more than happy to take your copy off from somebody's hand if they.
There you go. We'll put this out there. We'll get everybody to retweet it. We'll get you your copy. It'll be like
Poor Jon Gilmour.
poor John. Getjohnzombies.com. You heard it here first. There is pain, there are tears, but there is also hope. But okay.
So, yeah, those are
nonsense. Yeah.
those are a few of the things that have been hitting the table lately, and lots of prototypes. Like I do prototype nights, one night a week. So
Is this when you get the cards out and just say, okay, let's muck around with stuff and see what we can come up with? Or is it stuff that you've already been doing?
It's both. I mean, I usually do most of my like really loose prototyping during the day.
Yeah.
And I try to bring something that's at least somewhat functional to prototype night.
Uh-huh.
But we have a really great local group of guys who all are interested in designing. So there's, I think, at least 5 or 6 of us that meet up every Tuesday night. And almost everybody will bring a game. So
yeah, I've seen the Facebook posts. You always seem to be playing something and making me wish I was playing something as well. But no, I mean, are there games that you've? I mean, obviously you mentioned zombie side. Are there any other games that you would like to play that you've seen recently that you would like to get your hands on?
I mean that's been a big one. There's a few Essen or I'm really excited for Yokohama.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other games from the Japanese game fair that really have me excited. And some of the Essen releases from last year that we're still kind of waiting for to trickle out over here.
Yeah. I mean, there's also kind of Kickstarter games that come out that then get kind of like a retail release as well.
Oh, I'm eagerly awaiting my copy of Fireteam Zero.
Yeah.
That was a game that I kickstarted, and it's got gorgeous minis in it, and they had some production problems, so they just sent out the base game.
Oh, right, that's a shame.
And the base game is pretty decent, but like there's so much expansion stuff coming that I feel like I don't want to play the base game until I have all that other stuff. So that's one I'm really excited for to come in.
As you know, we do give it a kick, so this seems like a natural progression. Obviously, you're not only somebody that has a lot of interest on Kickstarter, because I think we follow each other on Kickstarter. So on occasion, see, John's looked at this, John's backed, this, and it's you've had Heroes and Tricks quite recently that you were involved in with was it Eduardo Baraf? You obviously also had Vault Wars, which was a Kickstarter kind of campaign as well. A lot of people will know you by Dead of Winter, but there's maybe not as many people will know you about Vault Wars. I have played Vault Wars. I've got a copy of Vault Wars. I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's for those that aren't aware. It is essentially, all the heroes that win, that's fine. They go home with the treasure. All the heroes that die, what happens to the treasure that they've accumulated, basically in their vaults? And the idea of this game, it's like an auction game, stroke almost kind of bluffing game where people take turns to be the kind of the auctioneer, and everybody else decides to bid on certain cards. certain treasures, and then they have the option to store these items in order to gather sets of items, or they have the option to discard them or pay for storage, or actually wear them, that they have different effects. The question I've got for you about Vault Wars, the miser card, the card that said you're not allowed to store anything that round, what'd you put that in for? Because that lost me my last game.
It's you're not allowed to sell anything, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because we wanted to add a little bit of risk to it.
Yeah,
and
utterly
force,
wiped me out.
and force players like, oh, you might get a lot of stuff, but you're gonna have to store all of it because you're kind of infected with the miser disorder, and you're gonna hold on to everything for the turn.
I know. It totally. I think it was like the second last round or something like that, and I got this, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna win this. I need to get some stuff, because I was looking at other people's cards, and they all had sets of stuff, and I went, okay, I'll get this, and this. And I couldn't get rid of some stuff, so I ended up having to, I ended up losing money. I just ended up crying. I was throwing stuff about the room. I was generally quite unhappy. But I mean, Vault Wars is fun. Can people? Is it available out there, kind of commercially? Can people pick it up?
Yeah, I believe through floodgate.com. I know that we just did a second printing.
Cool.
So hopefully that should be either here or here very soon for Gen Con. But if it's not available right now, it's available for pre-order at floodgategames.com.
That's floodgategames.com. And pick yourself up. I mean, how much is it? About $25 or something?
I think it's $25 US. Yeah,
that's not bad. I mean, it's a good fun game, and we've played it a good few times at the club, and we had a lot of fun with that. It was kind of cool. Heroes and Tricks. Heroes and Tricks. I mean, you designed it. I mean, it's a good game.
Well, thank you.
It's good fun. Heroes and Tricks. That was another one that we kind of mentioned on briefly. That's been successfully funded. Was that last month or the month before? I believe
it started in May, so it ended last month.
Yeah. How are you getting on? How's production moving on with that? Then is that?
It went real good. We did another large. I'm very big about doing large play tests for all my games.
Yes.
That was something that was important to me with Dead of Winter, and because of that, Plaid Hat started doing a playtest corps where we ran Dead of Winter through 100 groups, which was kind of unprecedented. I won't say it was unprecedented in the industry, because I'm sure there's been other people that do that large of a playtest, but it's definitely unprecedented for Plaid Hat to have 100 groups playing a game, and ask them to play it 10 to 12 times within a month period is pretty huge. So I've tried to push that with every game that I've done so far. So we did that with Vault Wars. We did it with Heroes and Tricks. And it just wrapped up all the playtesting. So we're in the process of putting the final polish on it. And then it should, I believe the Kickstarter says fulfillment will be early next year.
That's kind of cool.
But I know Ed's a little bit conservative with his estimate, so people may see it a little bit before then, like maybe around the holidays. But I don't want to promise anything because if it's not on time.
Yeah. No, I mean, Ed Warubaraf, if you the last game that he did was also a Kickstarter, kind of lift off, get me off this planet. But he's quite active on the scene in terms, he does a lot of YouTube videos and Let's Plays and stuff like that. He's actually well worth kind of checking out. I'll probably put a link. I'll put a link to him in the actual show notes, because Liftoff's a great game if you haven't played that.
It's very good.
Me and my son played that, and the quality of the pieces were kind of very, very, very good.
I think you'll be surprised. In Heroes and Tricks, one of the kind of novel things about it is the box is a component of the game.
I saw that you actually used the box in order to play the game, and I think that was one of the things that made me think, this is going to be this is worthwhile definitely kind of
Yeah,
definitely kind of looking at, you know.
I think we had a pretty unique concept that we came up with, and Ed took that attention to detail and put it into the box, so the box really stands out as something special.
I mean, Kickstarter seems to have been quite good for yourself. I mean, is that a route that you're going to continue to take? Because obviously, on the other side of it, you've got the plaid hat side of things. They don't seem to go down the Kickstarter route at all. I mean, they're releasing. They've obviously had their entire Mice and Mystics series of games. They've got their new naval game, which is coming out, which I can't remember. Seafall, which I've looked at.
I'm really excited for that one.
I've looked at that. Do you know what? I had an email conversation with Brian from Plaid Hat about the shipping to the UK, because I think the shipping is it's another £60 on top of it. So I've kind of like went yes, and then went no. I might have to wait until it comes over to the UK. But also, obviously, they've got what your friend Isaac also have done kind of Ashes as well, and that's got kind of expansion. So they seem to be going with a model of funding stuff themselves and then obviously putting it out. They don't seem to go down the Kickstarter route. You've done a lot of Kickstarter stuff. What's your? I mean, I asked, I've asked this of, when I interviewed kind of Jeffrey Greer, I asked him about his thoughts on the Kickstarter. With you kind of being an established, well-known kind of game designer, do you have an opinion on seeing like the black, the zombie side guys kind of sticking a Kickstarter on there? And is it a really, really good thing to have? Is it, these bigger companies putting Kickstarters out there, or do you think they should maybe take the plaid hat route, or is it up to them really how they do it? Because
I mean, it's totally up to them. I think that Kickstarter is fantastic for smaller companies,
yes.
because it is very expensive to print a board game. I mean, even a smaller board game like Vault Wars, you're talking probably like $25,000 to $30,000 up front.
Yeah.
To publish it. So Kickstarter obviously helps you alleviate that upfront thing.
Yeah.
Now, in my opinion, it's tough. It's really tough, because I don't want to say that I don't think any company should be using it, but I feel like at a certain point it gives a company some level of legitimacy to not put games on Kickstarters. But then you can put a game with an IP on Kickstarter and make $100,000 without a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't have a problem with the bigger companies doing it. I think at some point a company should say, oh well, we don't need it, because really, if they could run their own pre-order campaign, like GMT does the P500 system. Where when they announce a new game, they wait until 500 people have pre-ordered it through their website, and then they put it to printing.
Yeah.
So they made sure that the demand's there before they print. And doing something like that, I mean, you aren't paying Kickstarter the extra 12%. So even if you made a little bit less by not getting that advertising, once you've built up a customer base, I always think that companies need to think like, oh, well, we could just do the status quo, but what if we tried something a little bit different? It's, and I like it when companies do, but I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, let's face it, things are finding their feet, and if you are able to get out to a massive audience on a platform that a lot of people, I mean, let's face it, Board Game Geek have on their newsletter, they have like here's the kind of the Kickstarter of the week, and they usually put one or two up. I mean, obviously, I hear from Kickstarters through friends that are backing stuff. I go out and check stuff, kind of myself. So it is a kind of a marketplace. I guess unless you're really strong and fierce on your marketing. I think
maybe it's more on Kickstarter. Like maybe they should change what they stand for.
Yeah.
Because it used to be a platform for small businesses and people with ideas to launch those ideas.
Yeah.
And if that's what they want it to be, then that's fine. But
They've
If
got to kind of stick to that ethos, haven't they? I
they
mean,
either have to stick to it or change and say, hey,
yeah,
we're a pre-order system.
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's fine. I don't have a. I mean, I don't actually have a problem. I don't really have a problem with it because there's a lot of really, really happy people out there that have really got into board gaming, and it's given a lot of companies a lot of exposure, and it's given a lot of companies a more stable financial base for them to go out and build more exciting kind of games, and I guess it also allows them to kind of take a risk as well. There's nothing to stop Cool Mini or not saying, guess what, guys, we're not doing a kind of the standard miniature game. We're going to do something slightly different. And there's a chance that a lot of people, based on the fact that they do what they do, will go ahead and back them. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice because a company can kind of, like you're saying, explore that and say, "Oh, we want to do this thing that's different, and we want to make sure that it's, not going to be a huge failure first."
Oh, I've just had something fall off the wall. One of my kids' pictures.
Oh no!
It's fine. It's just a piece of paper with a clothes peg on it, but we should have stuck it up with something a little bit stronger. It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, yeah. I mean, as I say, if they change it, that's fine. If they stick with the status quo, it's going to be fine. It's still a very, very exciting time. I mean, who would have thought that they said recently that more people are going to kickstart board games than they are doing for video games now, because 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100 you are getting the product, whereas it seems video games you're getting kind of delays, or you're not getting, you're getting a really, really kind of disappointing kind of product. There was I think a game based around or very close to like the Mega Man franchise that got released recently, and it was on the back of a Kickstarter, and I think it got panned universally by the critics.
Mighty Number 7, I think, was the game.
Yeah,
right?
Mighty 7 or Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9,
Yeah. And I guess because on Kickstarter everybody's pushed to making Let's Play videos and get previews and previews done and actual almost like mini kind of pre-release reviews done, then you're kind of pretty sure of what you're going to get at the end of the day, which is kind of cool.
Well, and I think one of the things our industry needs a little bit more of is a little bit of transparency. Like, yes. And it's something that the video game industry is discovering. Like, there was just a big controversy about some YouTubers being paid by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
To promote their games and not disclosing that.
Yeah.
And there are some YouTubers that are very good about disclosing that it's a paid Kickstarter preview.
Yeah,
and then there's
but I think it was the manner that, they were told that make sure what you do is you have lots and lots of text before you say this is a paid advert. And then you had to click more. If you see the text on YouTube, you've got the show more bit that kind of expands everything. And they were kind of saying, well, listen, you have to press the show more button, and then that will show you at the very bottom it was a paid advert. And I think the advertising guys went, this is not good.
Yeah, but, and there's a big controversy right now. Counter-Strike Go,
yes.
the betting websites where you go and you put up your items and you feed them to a bot, and then they get randomly redistributed.
Who would have thought that people kind of selling kind of different colored skins for guns would have been such a money making idea?
Yeah, the YouTubers that are promoting that own the company.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't disclose it.
And then their defense was, well, people should be checking out the owners of a website before they click on the link, and it's like,
no,
nah, what?
Yeah, and I think we need a little bit more policing of Kickstarters too, because there's a plague, and I promised myself I wouldn't get into it on this podcast, but there's a lot of games that don't necessarily promote good things, and that promote sexism and racism and stuff like that make it to Kickstarter and either aren't upfront about it or occluded a little bit, or
Yeah.
just, fly in the face of, oh, we're being super offensive. And,
Yeah.
those things I think are bad for our industry.
Yeah. I think there's I think Cards Against Humanity is some people find it very very fun. I've read reviews. Shut Up and Sit Down did one of the guys, Paul Dean, did an excellent kind
Mm-hmm.
of write up about Cards Against Humanity. That if you haven't read it, then it's worthwhile kind of having a look over. It's kind of an interesting his take on where it is, where it was as a game, and obviously that's moved on to. I guess you get with any games, you get a lot of clones, and if something is very very successful, then you're always going to get a clone if that ends up being a bad thing for something.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be a good thing, but I mean the standard joke on Kickstarter is there's always somebody that's making chess version 2 or super chess, or you know chess, chess, or look at this, what a lovely big chess kind of thing.
Yes.
There's always going to be people. There's always going to be people like that.
Yeah, so I mean,
But
as creators, just anybody who's out there making games should just think about like how are the decisions that I'm making in this game, and how is what I'm going to put out there going to affect other people? Is it going to make people happy, or is it going to make people feel bad about being who they are? And
yeah,
if the answer is the former, then don't do that thing.
yeah,
Like if you're just making a cloned knockoff of Cards Against Humanity, which then you're not designing a game.
no,
It,
you're jumping on somebody else's bandwagon of ideas and trying to ride the kind of the gravy train, I guess.
yeah, and I think we just as an industry need to stop accepting like, oh, that's okay, and games that promote that kind of not. I feel like Cards Against Humanity has made steps to fix the things that they did wrong. They took out a lot of the really offensive cards.
Yeah,
And a lot of the other points that Paul brings up about, you know, you're not really being funny when you play it. You're just you're putting together a punchline that doesn't take a lot of thought.
no,
I agree with him, but I think if people like that, that's fine because it's going, regardless of how good or bad a game is. Like people pan Munchkin and Flux.
yes,
But if those games help bring more people into the industry, I think
yeah.
that outweighs them not being good.
Yeah, I mean it opens their eyes into what else is available, which is always somebody that's got Cards of Humanity might also pick up Code Names. They might pick up Once Night a Werewolf. They might pick up then they might move on to Carcassonne. They might move on to
Mm-hmm.
any other games
And
as well.
I
So
think that's okay.
that can always be a good thing. Yeah, yeah. Now, we are going to talk about the Wasteland Express, but I'll put out a question if anybody's got any questions for John. And you know what happened?
There were questions.
There were lots of questions. So I'm going to run through. Run through as many as we can. We can't promise we're going to get any of them, but I'll get all the way through them because there are some interesting ones, and there's also some. There's a couple of guys that have just complained, which is quite.
You'll have
which is
those.
quite good. Yeah, well, that's the boys from Polyhedron Collider, which I think you picked up on, but we'll read them out anyway. There's this is from the kind of the a couple of guys have DM'd me directly, just asking. This is obviously in relation to possibly Dead of Winter. How do you design a co-op board game that to minimise the quarterback effect? And I guess what they mean by that is one person taking charge and running the show. I guess that's one thing that you see with Pandemic is that you get, somebody goes, cure this, go here, you go there. That doesn't happen as much or a lot in Dead of Winter because I guess the scenario is so many different scenarios. I mean, were you conscious of that when you designed it, that you needed to make the kind of the variables of the outcomes in the scenarios as different as possible?
I think that was part of it. The other thing is um, that we have a hidden traitor, so you can't fully trust anybody's motives.
Yes.
Like if you're telling me to go do something, you're telling me to go do that. And even with just the secret objectives, if you're telling me to go do something, it's probably because you have other stuff to do. So why should I listen to you? I have my own stuff to do.
Okay.
I really think the quarterback issue is about 75% a player issue and about 25% a game issue. So you can do things to help relieve it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Flashpoint does a good job. If you've ever played it, it's the firefighting game.
Yeah.
It's very similar in play styles to Pandemic, but it adds a rule where a player can save their action points for the next turn. And like that little change makes it so that a player who doesn't know what to do has a safety valve. You don't have to spend every action as efficiently as possible. You can say, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to pass and save these other 2 points."
Yeah.
So you don't have another player telling you what to do. You still can. I mean, it still happens in that game in Dead of Winter, but in Dead of Winter, you can just tell the other player to sod off.
Yeah, stop it. Sort your life out, basically, or you're going to get exiled, mate.
Exactly.
And that question was by Lion Yeti. The next one is by Sea Birdsong. He says I don't know if you have anything to do with this, but he says the Dead of Winter card replacement app has a substantial rules change where you don't get to know the results of a choice before choosing it. What's up with that? What's up with that, John?
What's up with that?
What's up with that, John?
I definitely have opinions about that.
Ooh. Did you? All right. Okay.
I have stated those opinions on Board Game Geek.
All right. Okay.
I probably shouldn't restate them, but if people want to look, they can go find what I feel about that.
Well, if you pop me a link, I can always put it in the show notes so people can read it.
Well, I mean, basically boils down to ever since the game. I'll just say it anyways. I don't care.
Okay.
Since the game came out, players said that they thought that the crossroad cards would be better if they behaved like that. Yes. So with the app, we gave players the ability to play the game the way they wanted.
All right. Okay.
In my opinion, it's not the best way to play the game. Because here's the situations. You've played Dead of Winter a good number of times.
Yeah.
So if you're using the app and a new player is reading a crossroad card, and let's say, Mary is a new player, and she has to make a decision, and all she knows is what the text says, but not the actual outcome of it.
Yeah.
Like the app does. Then the outcomes are either A, she chooses randomly, and she could possibly make a choice. Like, let's say we have 1 morale left. And option A is nothing happens, and option B is we lose a morale.
Yeah.
So she either chooses randomly, and we have a 50-50 shot at losing the game.
Yeah.
Or B, you say, choose option A.
Because you've played the game before.
Because you've played the game before.
Yeah.
And you remember the card. So essentially, it's the same thing as reading out the entire card, except you're taking the decision away from that player. And she's doing what you said instead of making that decision on their own.
Herself, yeah.
So if people want to play that way, that's fine. And
if you don't, you're better using the original cards.
No, you can totally still play it that way with the app. You can go and look at the result and then back arrow and look at the other result.
All right, okay.
And then make the decision. So, I mean, I love the app because it does all the narration. It helps people who don't want to read the card.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think there's still plenty of good things about it.
And these things, with feedback, they can change. I mean, you'll probably find, you give it, with the new expansion coming out, they might address that and they might say, okay, here's the option. You can either have option A, where it gives you the choices, or you have option B, where it blanks them out. There's, because it's an app, these things can be pretty fluid as well. I mean, that's not not an issue, but
and we want the players to play the game the way they enjoy it. Like, I mean, just like they can play with or without a betrayer.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't want that experience, that's fine. And if you want a slightly more story rich experience, but I also feel like if you have to make a decision about your life of like, do I move to a new city? Like as a human, you can kind of extrapolate what the outcomes are. You can
Yeah,
say, oh, well, if I move to the new city, I'm gonna have to make new friends, and I'm gonna have to, get a new apartment, and may have to
yeah,
buy new furniture or move or whatever. So
yeah,
I feel like it's not that far of a thematic stretch to say that when you're at these crossroads, you can figure out what the results are.
yeah. Cool, cool. Next question we have, as you probably listened, we've got Nick. Nick is a question junkie on Twitter. If we say go and ask him some questions, Nick's usually got about 5 or 6.
Absolutely.
And as you know, his first question is always yes with a question mark. This is Nick. He's at Lane at 360. His next question is, how are my non-wizard friends today? Fantastic, Nick. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely fantastic.
He says, what game should I get next? Well, I was going to say... Oh, wait, he's tied it in with the next one, which is... He's asked if I'm going to get him a copy of Dead of Winter, which is nice of him. What game should he get next? Well, Wasteland Express is coming up on Kickstarter.
Yeah, no, that will not be on Kickstarter. It'll be pre-order.
Oh, pre-order, sorry.
Yep, that one is not going to be Kickstarter.
Well, there you go. So we'll talk about that in a minute, actually. His next question is, have you ever read any of the White Wolf fiction?
I have not. I've only played one White Wolf RPG.
Okay.
And I liked it. And I played some D&D in high school. And I'm more into storytelling games now than role playing games.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I really like the role playing and less of the game portion of it, which is odd.
Yeah.
But I like rules light systems like Dungeon World, where it's more riffing. But no, I've never read any of the fiction. But if he has some suggestions of some really good arcs, I love to read. So,
well, I'll respond to Nick, because Nick's a good friend of the show, and I'll ask him to pass over his recommendations.
Well, then I should probably send Nick a copy of The Long Night. Then that seems like a nice thing.
He's still wanting the Dead of Winter. You know that.
If he doesn't have a copy of The Long Night, I could probably be convinced to send him one.
Oh, there you go. See, there you go, Nick. And I'll sort you out with Dead of Winter, the base game, okay, Nick? Oh, well, it was his birthday last month, so he's probably due something.
Well, then I feel like I have to.
No, you don't have to. Don't, because he'll just ask for more things every week then. And then we'll turn into it'll be like school again. You'll be sending him stuff. You'll be sending him foil Magic the Gathering cards. His next question is, I've heard your stance on wizards, but what about druids? They're kind of like wizards. The stance on druids is quite simple, is that druids are failed wizards who got too close to herbology. They like their sticks, their stones, they're staring at their moon, and they're kind of swimming in the river naked, and we just put them as lazy wizards, so we don't, we just leave them alone. They're usually harmless, but they can be slightly annoying, and they obviously like lentils a lot as well, so you don't want to stick around for them because they pass wind quite a bit.
Mostly harmless is the classification.
Mostly harmless. Another question from King Kiwi God. He says, ask John when he's most in the zone for thinking about new aspects of an amazing game. Is it at home, at work, or when you're eating, I guess? You work from home, don't you? So...
Well, I started renting an office about 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh, there you go then.
Just to kind of get out of the house a little bit, so I can pretend that I go to work every day.
That's kind of cool. Where you going, honey? I'm off to the office, honey.
Yeah, I'm off to the office. That way the kids can't just walk in when I'm reading comic books or whatever it is that I'm doing during the day.
I'm trying to play faster than light here.
Oh, I love FTL. That's an excellent game.
Just leave us alone. I'm up to this level. Come on, my engine's just gone.
Inspiration kind of hits me everywhere. I try to write down ideas whenever I think of them as soon as I think of them. So whether it's, I've had times where I wake up in the morning and I like dreamed about playing a game during the night, and I'm like, oh, that would be fantastic if there was a card-based robot fighting game with minis that you like steered your robots with your deck.
We always joke about a steampunk zombie game.
Yeah. So like sometimes I'll just have weird dreams about stuff like that and then write those ideas down, or sometimes it'll just be through a conversation where somebody says something that's apropos at nothing, and
you go, give me a second, let me just get my notepad out.
Let me jot that down.
That was interesting what you said about the mechanic about going and feeding your rabbits.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. He's also asked, this is the same question from King Kiwi God. He's also asked, how close is the retail version to the first version of Dead of Winter that you created?
It's very different.
Okay.
And that's really the path for any board game.
Yes.
And it's frustrating for new designers when they're like, no, this was my concept for the game.
This is this is the first vision, and this is the way I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, because a lot of times, the publisher has their own vision once they see what you're working on. The art may not be the style that you envisioned.
No.
So that's always part of the process. Is it just changing dramatically, not a made up word.
The game we spoke about recently on the last the last episode me and Colin did was Catacombs, and the third edition from Catacombs went in a completely different kind of art direction from the previous versions, and they turned it from something that looked like a Descent kind of dungeon crawler into the kind of the cartoon masterpiece that it kind of is today.
Now I haven't listened to the last episode. What's interesting about that third edition of Catacombs is that Quan Chai, the gentleman who did the art for it, had done the art as a fan expansion for it, where you could download it from Board Game Geek and re-sticker it with that style of art.
Really?
And then they're like, that fan-based thing. And what's really cool is like that's a big part of our industry. Like you can make fan content for things because people will see that.
Yeah, well, I've heard about fan content for kind of Dead of Winter. I've heard about people substituting kind of different things for the zombies, like wolves and stuff like that, and tried different kind of ways of doing it. And I guess, that's you in video games you get mods, so I guess in board games you're gonna get kind of like your fan input as well.
Just don't make anything. Don't make any fan content for Game Workshop, obviously. Because they will send somebody to kill you if you do.
And they actually send somebody dressed up like an Inquisitor or something like that. You get a Blood Angel turning up at your office.
And I'm not supposed to talk about it much yet. But I know that it's been officially announced. So I did one of the haunts for the new version of Betrayal.
All right.
And I will say that it was inspired by some of the fan things that people did with Dead of Winter.
Oh, cool.
So I'm really excited about it.
Well, I guess that's the other thing. If you see an idea, it might spark a little bit, spark something else, which gives you even more of an idea for something else. Kiwi God also asks, how did the theme evolve at all when you started off designing Dead of Winter? Was it these are guys that are lost in a colony, no food, no water, potentially ill, and they're fighting against, they're going to have to come up against zombies, or did it evolve from something else?
The theme started pretty dead on. Like, I knew I wanted it to be a zombie game that focused on the survivors and took place in a really harsh winter. Like, those three elements were there from the very first version.
Fantastic. Cool.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's almost like this is a survival game, and there's some zombies on the side a lot of the time, because most of the kind of the suspense actually is caused by players you're playing with sometimes more than the zombies.
Absolutely.
Except when you roll the red dice and you get that little tooth mark coming up, and then you're like, damn it.
And we had talked about retheming it for quite a while during the development process, because we're like, oh, people are gonna hate another zombie game. But then, we talked through it, and I was like, I think changing it wouldn't be true to the game, and it's not just another zombie game in my opinion.
No, it's not. It's, you know what? It sounds weird, but the comparison I've always thought in my head was kind of Shaun of the Dead. Mm-hmm. Shaun of the Dead was like a romantic comedy that just happened to have zombies around it. Dead of Winter is like an apocalyptic kind of survival game, which just happens to have zombies kind of surrounding it as well.
Oh yeah, Shaun of the Dead was a huge influence. I'm a big fan.
There you go. Okay, Polyhedron Collider, friends of the show, have said they've just asking a whole barrage of questions. Like, and I'll say this in a nice kind of calm voice. Why do you hate me? Why do you feel the need to punish me? Why is every game of Dead of Winter a soul-destroying defeat? I can answer that, and I think the simple answer to that is get better.
Yes.
I think. Stop. I think you replied to one of the... Oh, yeah. They also said that horse has been used for meat so much we made a range of ready-made lasagna, and still the colony starves.
When we were in playtesting, we aimed for about a 30% win rate. Because I feel like 30 to 35% for a co-op game is right where it should be.
You fought for that win. You can deserve that win at the end. I like your reply is because you replied on Twitter. Are you playing every single outsider card you find? Most people do, and you shouldn't. I didn't know that. I didn't know you could decide not to bother taking an outsider. You could just leave them there.
That is as far as I've gathered over the last couple of years, that is one of the most commonly mistaken rules.
There you go.
Because the rule book says that every card in the deck is an item card, but they say event. So when people see event, they think they have to play them. So it can be a little bit confusing. But yeah, for anybody listening, you don't have to play outsider cards. You can trade them. You can request them. In fact, like in my group, if you have more than one more outsider than any other, or one more survivor than any other player, you're probably going to get exiled.
Oh.
Well, so because more dice is more, you can... And when people complain about the betrayer double turn, I think them not understanding that rule plays into that the majority of times. Because you shouldn't have more than 2 or 3 survivors.
No.
If you have 5 survivors and you have 6 dice to spend swinging morale, then you can make a big swing with 2 back-to-back turns.
Yeah.
But with 3 dice, you're not going to make a huge swing.
No point. So, and the last thing Polyhedron Collider said, we had a couple of wins under our belt, started to get cocky and pushed the difficulty up. We were not ready, and that again just goes back to stop being rubbish.
Yep, just be better.
Just be better. You know.
Hard mode is supposed to be hard mode. If normal mode is 35%, hard mode's more like 10.
Well, there you go. And here we go. Yeah, Nick, I was looking for this, but Nick did come back and ask when I'm sending him a copy of Dead of Winter. He's obviously he's just pushing it far too much. But that's entirely up to himself. Obviously we've done Give Us a Kick, which is cool. One of the things that we always do is we do shout outs, and we do like a list of podcasts and friends of the show and stuff like that, and I don't want you to have to sit through kind of that, and we do it regularly enough that everybody that we speak about knows that we speak about them anyway. But obviously the shout out is a chance for you to tell us about new projects that are coming up. As I say, we've mentioned Heroes and Tricks, which is successful, but Wasteland Express looks very, very interesting indeed. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. I've looked at it. It looks very, very interesting. But for anybody that hasn't had the time to look at this, give us a rundown about, what is Wasteland Express and why should they be thinking about it?
Well, it's a post-apocalyptic pick up and deliver game that was designed by Matt Riddle, Ben Pinchback, and myself. Those two
Cool.
designers have designed some fantastic games.
Yes.
So I was really excited for the chance to work with them when they approached me.
Cool.
So it's a pick up and deliver game, so it has a little bit of Euro game to it and a little bit of Amerithrash to it, and you can really play it in either mode. There's a game mode where you play it like a pure Euro game, where the
Yeah.
person with the most money at the end of the game wins, or you can play it where there's objectives and you're playing for victory points. So like we really tried to, come up with an organic way to do different game modes. There'll be a little bit of a storyline, so you can play through a little bit of not scenario, but a number of scenarios that make up a campaign. So there's a story there to explore. We have a fantastic artist. We got Riccardo Buccarelli.
The artist is amazing. I've seen the artwork, as I keep saying.
Yeah.
Every podcast, I love a bit of good artwork, and I really, really like the artwork.
He does. He did all the art for a comic book called DMZ, which is a fantastic comic book. People should go and buy that.
Yeah.
So they can get a little bit of a preview on the style of work that he does. But seeing him bring this world to life has been absolutely amazing.
For some reason, I was reminded a bit of Tank Girl, just with some of the ways the things are, and some of the ways the enemies appear and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is if you took a boring Euro game and threw it in a blender with Tank Girl, Mad Max, and Borderlands, and then poured it into a 12 by 12 box, this is what you get.
So, how many players is it going to play? What's the playtime going to be like, do you reckon?
2 to 5 players.
Cool.
And the playtime will depend on what scenario you're playing. But generally it should play in less than 2 hours.
That's good.
So there'll be shorter scenarios and longer scenarios.
Yeah, but 2 hours is a good time, because anything longer than that, and then it can lead to a bit of whether or not you decide to play it again.
Yes.
There's some games that I've played that have taken a lot longer than that, an entire evening, and you get to the end and you kind of feel, I've kind of enjoyed it, but I know it's going to take that length of time to play again, so it might kind of put me off.
It's one of the games that I want to keep playing as a prototype, even with the boring artwork. Like, I keep playing it when I'm not doing prototype playtesting.
There's and you've written there's an interesting article that's been written about the game on pandasaurus.com. I think that's the website, and that talks about the white pieces of paper, the white pieces of paper being used to, it's kind of like the prototype while you're playing it, and that is an interesting read, and we'll kind of stick a little link in the show notes.
They've done a fantastic job. Every Wednesday, or almost every Wednesday, they've done an article, about the game and game development in general. So it's been really cool.
They've got like, is it Machi Kori in there? Mm-hmm. They were responsible for that. They've been responsible for some superb little games.
They brought Tammany Hall out over here and did the wider release of that, which is a fantastic game. Machi Koro. I think I have 3 more games signed with them, so we'll be doing a lot of stuff together over the next few years.
That's really, really exciting. I mean, where can they get? I mean, if you want, we'll put it in the show notes, but if give us a shout. If you want to get a hold of the of Wasteland Express, how do you do it?
Well, you'll want to just keep an eye on Pandasaurus. Keep following Wasteland Wednesdays. I think they will announce it there, so either follow them on Facebook or Twitter. It's the best way to keep up, or follow me, because I'll certainly let people know. We should have, I believe they're planning on starting pre-orders after Gen Con.
Which is August, isn't it?
Yes, August 4th.
August 4th, so it's going to be
It should be mid to late August when pre-orders start, and then with the intention of delivery. I don't want to say a date because I'll probably get in trouble,
No,
but
let's not.
as soon as
No.
possible,
Yeah.
late this year, early next year.
Cool. How much is it gonna be?
I don't know. I think they're getting the final quotes on everything right now and trying to suss
Right.
that out.
So
It's gonna
again,
be pretty chock full of some really nice chunky minis. Instead of using resource cubes for things,
yeah.
they're all going to be not 3D modeled, but plastic injected little, like the water is barrels of water, and the guns are little 10 millimeter crates of guns.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
So yeah, it's going to
That
be
sounds
the
awesome.
production value is going to be out of this world.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it here at We're Not Wizards.
Well, thank you.
Simple as because, yeah.
I'll make sure to get a copy to you guys as soon as possible.
Don't because then we'll be accused of being corrupt. Which in many ways we're quite happy to be, as we said about catacombs. Send us lots of catacombs. Let us build a wall and a house.
Yes.
I did have one message from Colin, who said, what attracts you to dystopian futures?
Really the hopelessness. I've been infatuated with zombies since I was probably 13 years old and first saw Night of the Living Dead. The old black and white version. And I think zombies are a fantastic metaphor for just the hopelessness of life and the constant never ending, like, death is always coming at us and there's no slowing that down, so you have to live life to its fullest. So to me, they've always been the most horrifying monsters. And I like I like general dystopian and post-apocalyptic things just because I think it's always interesting to see like one of my favorite books is The Road by Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah.
And seeing those little glimmers of hope and like how people get tested by these dystopian universes and what makes us human.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so Colin did actually manage to get on the show.
Yes.
Which is good.
He must be on his way back from
he must be on his way back
antibiotics.
getting the antibiotics if he's able to text in this kind of wasteland. I've got to ask him where he actually gets the electricity to charge his phone from, but that'll be another thing. If people want to find you, where can they find you? If they do want to find you on Twitter or Facebook, where's the best place if they want to connect?
Probably the best place is Twitter at Jon Gilmour Gilmour. They can follow me there, interact with me. I love meeting people at conventions, so if you're ever at a convention that I'm at, I'm more than happy to make time to sit down and play a game and talk and spend some time together.
We've been, as I say, we kind of figured out we've been speaking for a little over a year and a half now, kind of back and forward, and I've always, it's always easy just to drop me a quick email, say hello, and have a little conversation, and then we both get on with stuff after that. But it's this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you for having me.
I've really enjoyed kind of having you on. Again, keep an eye out for Wasteland Express because it looks something that's like really, really exciting. When Heroes and Tricks, when we can get our hands on that, normally anything that comes through, we will play it and we'll put it on the Got to the Table section. For ourselves, you can get us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards. You can get us on Facebook, facebook.com/We're Not Wizards. You can email us, magic@we'renotwizards.com or .co.uk. Again, John, many thanks for kind of spending your afternoon talking to this blatant fanboy.
My pleasure.
Yeah, but just going on, just again, thanks again for being on, and just for everybody out there, remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Say goodbye, John.
Goodbye.
Bye for now. Thank you.